Hi there, friends. I pray that you're well today. I'm currently reading through the book of Job with a friend of mine. If you don't know the story of Job in the Bible, here are the cliff notes. A man of God named Job suddenly becomes greatly afflicted, suffering more than many or any of us could possibly imagine. He finds himself at his utter end. He's surrounded by 3 of his friends who do their best to try to make sense of what's happened. How the one so blameless and righteous and blessed could possibly find himself at the bottom, having lost everything but his life and everything but his wife, but she doesn't seem to be much help to me, quite frankly, in this story. So his friends are just trying to make it right, to get to the bottom of what's happened. Job, however, maintains his sense of self somehow and ultimately speaks for himself, crying out to God to hear him and to answer him, to give him an understanding, to help him understand why. God finally answers Job, and humorously so, I think. I find him using more sarcasm than perhaps the rest of the Bible combined, saying things like, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have an understanding, who determined its measurement? Surely you know." Right. And along with his response to Job, God also expresses disappointment, to say the least, with these explaining friends of his. By the end of the story, Job's life is doubly as blessed and life progresses on as it always should have. There's speculation about this story, of course. Did it ever really happen? Is it just an ancient allegory that we might still find helpful today? And I don't know if I care. Regardless, there is something that I find profound in this story. Job's friends looked at a situation that was hard and confusing, and they spoke for God. Well, they attempted to. Their theological brains were spinning in overtime, using tools and traditions that had always been helpful to them. Job, though, addresses God directly and in a tone that many of us might be nervous to take on ourselves. But which of these actions was honored by God? At risk of making a kitschy comparison, I'm going to say it anyway. It is so tempting when faced with pain, hardship, death, heartbreak, pandemics, illnesses, you name it, in your own life or in a friend's life, or maybe you're just watching it unfold around you. It's so tempting to want to find an answer, an explanation, a way to reason and understand. Our brains are wired that way. They want to make sense of it. But you don't speak for God. And in fact, speaking for God doesn't even really honor your relationship with God. That's what made God so upset at the end of Job's story when he was talking to his friends. I've heard so many people speak of the pandemic specifically around us in terms of what God is intending to do by it and why he is allowing or even aiding it to happen. And I don't know. You don't know. We cannot know the mind and the purposes of God outside of the fact that he is working to redeem the world. We weren't created to understand that. So if you're ever tempted to do that kind of explaining, even thinking it might be helpful for someone or for yourself, I want to encourage you to try a different way, and that's the way of our friend Job. Try addressing God, talking to our living God, asking God what he's up to, why he's acting in the way he is, or maybe why he's staying silent in the way he is seeming to stay silent. God spoke back to Job finally out of a whirlwind and after about 40 chapters, to be honest. And maybe that's not how it will happen for you. I'd be surprised if that's how it happened for you, God speaking out of a whirlwind. But it is amazing the kind of presence and even the kind of response that God's Spirit can offer you when you only give Him the space to do it. Try the way of Job. Amen.